been 5 years, but Dana Holgorsen finally finds himself back in the Big 12, this time though with Houston, as he leads the Cougars into a new era for their program. But the million-dollar question is, will year one with Houston in the Big 12 be a successful one? Or will the Cougars go through a handful of growing pains? That's what we're here to answer today. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad that you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country over there, beating out over 80% of the national analysts and handicappers each of the last 5 years. Just as long as it was before Dana Holgorsen got back to the Big 12. You do not want to miss out on those expert picks. Take a look at our Patreon account as well. Exclusive college football content there year-round that you won't find anywhere else. Go become a member of our Patreon Wall of Fame and help us continue to build our channel, as well as sending us some gear as well. We're trying to get more representation in our background as we continue to renovate that. Let's share the love. Let's represent your team and get the GE Nation shining from coast to coast. So you take a look at Houston, guys. So this is the last of the Big 12 newcomers that we are predicting. We've already predicted the other three in BYU, UCF, and Cincinnati. Houston comes along now, and it's a big year for them. Obviously, a team that has had a pretty successful run in the American, but can they come into the Big 12 and immediately start contending? We take a look at the offense. This is a team and a side of the ball that loses a lot of talent, namely their star quarterback, Clayton Tune, and their big-time wide receiver, and Nathaniel Tank Dell. Both of them gone now. Houston had to utilize the transfer portal to kind of revamp their offense, adding Donovan Smith in from Texas Tech, who ironically beat Houston last year with his time with the Red Raiders. They had Tony Mathis in at running back from West Virginia, so adding another transfer from within the Big 12. But yeah, you look at the rest of the board, I mean, the offensive line's pretty solid. The wide receiver core is a little shaky. This is still a team that averaged over 36 points per game last year, but the question is, can they continue to reach that mark this year against better competition? Defensively, that's my biggest concern for Houston. 7 starters are back. That's great, but this defense was downright awful last year. 32.2 points per game. That's what they allowed. They gave up 279 passing yards per game, one of the worst secondaries in the country, and now they lose their top 5 tacklers from last year. It's a bit of a concern. And the secondary certainly not looking to be too much better than it was last year. You take a look at Houston's schedule, what the Cougars are going up against. Really, I think the ultimate goal for all 4 of these newcomers making this big leap to this Power 5 conference is to make a bowl game. Be competitive, try to make a bowl game. If you can do that, that's a successful year. Houston's got a tough schedule for it. The first thing I note, though, is that the entire month of September, Houston stays in state. All 5 of their games in the month of September are against teams within the state of Texas. So interesting little note there. Open up the year against UTSA. Last year, one of the games of the year. Houston and UTSA in week 1 gave us one of the games of the year. Houston trailing 21-7 in the fourth quarter, battled back and won the game 37-35 in triple overtime. UTSA, the Roadrunners, have done a phenomenal job under Jeff Traylor, and they're no slouch. They joined the American Conference this year and easily could win it. That's how good this team is, making the move in the Conference USA to the American and could win it. The defense is good. They've got one of the better quarterbacks within their conference in Frank Harris. This is a dangerous Roadrunners team, but I'm going to give the nod to Houston. It's not a Big 12 game, but it's the beginning of the year. It's at home. It's the start of the first season in the Big 12. There's going to be a lot of hype. We're going to see another close game. And I think Houston finds a way to beat UTSA. Home field advantage playing a slight role in that one. I do think they take down Rice. Certainly don't want to overlook the Owls by any means, but I do think they'll take down Rice, a team that Houston has won 7 straight games against. Barely won last year, though, 34-27. And then their first Big 12 game is at home against TCU, the national runner-up. Big 12 runner-up also, but also the national runner-up, to me, a little bit more impressive there. TCU, a great team, right? They lose a lot of talent, lose Max Duggan, lose Kendra Miller, lose Quentin Johnston, but they're a good team. And anybody that thinks they're going to fall off from 13 wins to being, a 5-6 win team is crazy. Got a good coach in Sonny Dykes. The talent is there. And that's why I'm actually siding with TCU in this game to take down Houston. I don't think the Cougars have enough to beat the Horned Frogs, even though they have home field advantage. My biggest concern, again, is that defense. That TCU offense, let's keep in mind, Chandler Morris is going to be their starting quarterback. He was supposed to be the starter last year. Got hurt. Max Duggan took over. The rest was history. Morris was good enough to run the offense. That's who Sonny Dykes wanted originally. I don't think the offense completely falls off. I think they're able to take down Houston and a TCU defense also that's getting a lot better, but people certainly are not talking about it. So Houston takes their first loss of the year to TCU. They're 0-1 in conference play, so they don't get that big celebration at home with their first Big 12 conference victory, unfortunately. They take down Sam Houston, who's now a member of the FBS, member of the Conference USA, now to move to 3-1, and then go on the road to Texas Tech, which is an interesting game because, again, the Donovan Smith reunion game. Donovan Smith beat Houston last year, as we mentioned, in overtime, and now is going to be the quarterback for Houston facing off against his former team in Lubbock. Very, very interesting here. But here's the problem. The biggest number I'm looking at. Houston's secondary, that was so bad last year, it probably won't be that much better this year, is facing a Texas Tech offense that averaged over 300 passing yards per game last year and has practically everybody coming back on the offensive side of the ball. I fully expect Texas Tech to exploit that secondary. I fully expect them to put up some big-time numbers. Last year, Texas Tech had 350 passing yards against Houston. That's exactly what happened. I think we could see similar numbers this time around, especially now with the game in Lubbock. I just don't see the Red Raiders, my Big 12 dark horse this year, falling to the Cougars. And with that, Houston will enter their bye week at 3-2, which isn't a horrible mark, all things considered. Yes, no conference victories, unfortunately, but they're going to get one right out of their bye week in a midweek game at home against West Virginia. They're going to beat the Mountaineers. Coming off that week of rest, those midweek games are interesting and an emotional, fun game storyline to watch out for. The Dana Holgorsen reunion game. We mentioned it. Dana Holgorsen, you said 5 years since he's been in the Big 12. Where was he? Well, he was the head coach of West Virginia. So now Holgorsen will be facing off against his former program where he was there for about 7 years. He was there for a while, had some good moments with the Mountaineers, but he's going to take them down in Houston on October 12th. West Virginia, the biggest thing with them, when you face them, stop the run. I don't have too much faith in their quarterback, whether it's Garrett Green, Nico Markiel, whoever. If you can stop that run, you're going to be okay. Houston's biggest weakness is their defense, but more so their passing defense. I think Houston's going to be okay there. I'm not scared of West Virginia beating me through the air, at least not right now. So Houston, off that week of rest, trying to go win it for their coach. They do get it done. They get their first Big 12 conference victory over West Virginia. And how fitting because of the Holgorsen connection. It's just kind of poetic irony. It's amazing. But Houston, with that, will clinch their fourth win of the year. And you're looking here, about halfway through the season, they're 4-2. The 4-2 team, six games in, maybe they will go bowling. Problem is, look at who they play after that. Texas, Kansas State, Baylor, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, UCF. Very, very difficult stretch. And I'll tell you right now, I don't think Houston wins any of their next 3 games. I think they fall to Texas. That, to me, is a no-brainer to me. These two teams met for every year from 1976 to 1995, an old Southwest Conference rivalry. I love that historic factor in it. I think it's going to be really cool. It's going to bring back some great memories for a lot of people. But Texas is way too good to me to drop this game, even though Houston gets to host. Offense practically has everybody coming back. Defense is good. Texas has their eyes set on a Big 12 title, maybe even a playoff berth. You can't get there if you lose to Houston. It's just not happening. So they lose to Texas. They then have to go on the road to the reigning Big 12 champions in Kansas State, who defensively, I think, can shut down this Houston offense that has talent. Donovan Smith is good if he can stay healthy. Tony Mathis is good. The wide receiver core, offensive line, not too bad. But that Kansas State defense, significantly better than Houston's. They've got the home field advantage there. And that Kansas State offense, people aren't talking about nearly enough. It used to just be all about Deuce Vaughn. Deuce Vaughn's gone. Who else do they have? They got a lot of starters back, and they have Will Howard back, who's one of the better quarterbacks within the Big 12. So they lose to Kansas State, then they go on the road to Baylor, another Southwest Conference rivalry, their first visit to Waco since 1994. But Baylor will bounce back from a disappointing 2022 season. Will have a much better year. They take down Houston. I don't know if I'd say any of those are in blowout fashion. The Texas game might be. You could make an argument Kansas State could be. But I think Houston holds their own for the most part in those 3 games. But those are 3 of the better teams within the conference, and Houston's just not quite to that level yet. So the Cougars go from 4-2 to 4-5 like that. That's just how difficult that schedule gets. And then they have 3 games left where they have to win 2 games. There are 3 games left, they got to win 2 to go bowling. I do think they get 1 win with a game against Cincinnati. They come back home, they take on a Bearcats team that they're familiar with a little bit from their time together in the American Athletic Conference. And here's the thing, if you're Houston, you got a lot going for you here. You're finally back home after back-to-back road games, which is never ideal, and you're facing a Cincinnati team that offensively probably isn't going to stress out your defense that much. Cincinnati offensively, to me, doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies. Emory Jones does not give me much faith of beating anybody through the air. The run game is going to be mediocre. They lost their top 8 receivers from last year. I mean, Cincinnati is going to go through a lot of growing pains, just like a handful of these other teams that are entering the Big 12 for the first time. So Houston comes home. Their defense isn't facing some high-octane attack. They're going to have to play some good ball, but it's going to be a lot easier as compared to Baylor, Kansas State, Texas. So back at home, Houston realizing they need this win. They've got to get it. They do. They take down a Bearcats team that will struggle mightily. Now they've got 2 games left. 1 win sends them to the postseason. Well, I don't think they're going to get the win over Oklahoma State. I'll tell you that right now. Oklahoma State's one of those weird teams this year where this game is really winnable. Back at home, it's senior day. Oklahoma State, mediocre. But to me, this game comes down to one thing, and it's coaching. Mike Gundy is 5-2 against Dana Holgorsen, or was 5-2 against Dana Holgorsen when Holgorsen was still at West Virginia. Gundy just kind of owns it. Whether Oklahoma State was great, whether they were mediocre, and the same goes for West Virginia, Gundy just significantly has that coaching edge. And at this point in the year, we don't know exactly where Oklahoma State will be, but I don't think they'll be in the hunt for a Big 12 title. They certainly will be in the hunt for a decent bowl game, though. And I think coaching is what plays the ultimate factor in this game. I like Oklahoma State just a little bit more. The Cowboys come on the road, steal one from Houston, a game that will be very, very close, which means it all comes down to that season finale at UCF. You win, you go to the postseason, you lose, you stay home, and you fall just short of a bowl game. What's it going to be for Houston? They are going to be home for the holidays. They are not going to go bowling. And it hurts me to do it because I really like Dana Holgorsen, and I'm really excited to see Houston back in the Big 12 where I feel like they belong. But I just don't think they're going to be able to go on the road to Orlando to take on a good UCF team, who also, by the way, could be fighting for their postseason lives in this game. You could very well see both UCF and Houston. Winner goes bowling, loser stays home, adds a little extra stakes to that matchup. But Orlando will be rocking for this game. This UCF offense is really, really good. John Rice Plumlee, R.J. Harvey, a lot of receivers back. I really like this team against a mediocre, if not below average, Houston defense. Like we've mentioned, UCF will be able to exploit that, especially on their home turf, and especially if they need this win. I take Gus Malzahn over Dana Holgorsen right now, and Houston will end the year at 5-7, thinking what could have been had they defeated Oklahoma State, had they defeated TCU, had they defeated a Kansas State or a Baylor on the road. Just 1 win away, but I think they're going to fall just short. But regardless, 5 wins, 2 conference wins, not a bad way to start if you're Dana Holgorsen. Remember, his first year at Houston, 4-8. The next year, 3-5. The next year, 12-2. Last year, 8-5. It takes time to build a program. It takes time to usher yourself into a new era. I believe Holgorsen will get the Cougars there eventually. This lays a solid foundation. Now it's just time to start building going forward. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on thegridironexpert.com, including our Patreon account. Link for that's down in the description below, including our address. Send us some gear to become a part of our GE Nation. Have your team represented in every single GE video. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.